For the first time in 900 years, Grandpa Vampire transforms. Don't be fooled by how scary Sviatoslav looks right now. Usually, he's so well behaved that even the cleaning lady can scold him. To avoid dirtying the floor, Sviatoslav reluctantly floats. But since he's gained weight recently, floating is a bit strenuous. One day, while Sviatoslav was out buying groceries, the car he was riding in got into a traffic accident. The car not only hit a boy, but also threw Sviatoslav out of the vehicle. By a twist of fate, they ended up hugging each other, and Sviatoslav's blood flowed into Zenyak's mouth, unexpectedly turning Zenyak into a vampire. However, Zenyak was unaware of this. He wondered why his face was covered in blood, scaring passersby who immediately wanted to call the police. Sviatoslav rushed over to explain that it was just tomato juice, claiming they were filming a prank show. Sviatoslav followed Zenyak all the way to school, where classmates gave Zenyak strange looks. The roommates were even more baffled, curious as to why Zenyak seemed perfectly fine despite such a severe accident. What's stranger is that not long after, Zenyak's body began to mutate. He not only developed super hearing but also became incredibly strong. Even more confusing, when Zenyak got intimate with his girlfriend Masha, he couldn't help but bite her lip, leading Masha to call him a pervert and threaten to break up with him. Depressed, Zenyak walked down the street, hearing more and more strange sounds. Zenyak tried to apologize to Masha but found that she had other suitors. Angry, Zenyak faced the tall and strong rival who didn't take him seriously and punched him directly. But amazingly, Zenyak felt like he was watching in slow motion. When he came back to his senses, he gently pushed his opponent, sending him flying far away. The opponent's companion, unconvinced, was also knocked down by Zenyak with a single move. Zenyak tried to pull Masha away, but accidentally broke her phone, leaving Masha speechless. However, the most bizarre thing was that Zenyak started craving blood uncontrollably. Even a small wound on a roommate made him drool, worried that he had some strange disease. Zenyak could only snack to calm down, but he still couldn't control himself. Seeing his sleeping roommate, Zenyak felt like he was looking at a delicious meal. Unable to resist, just as Zenyak opens his fangs for a feast, Sviatoslav appears in time to bring him home. Sviatoslav offered Zenyak some watermelon juice. No, it was a cup of blood. Zenyak, full and satisfied, grinned from ear to ear. When he saw his fangs in the mirror, he finally realized he had become a vampire. But suddenly, Zenyak looked puzzled again. Why could a vampire appear in the mirror? Do you drink human blood or pig's blood? And why can you go out during the day? Sviatoslav opened the refrigerator and patiently explained to Zenyak that they drank blood brought from the hospital by Jean. No wonder there's a blood shortage at the hospital. It's all being drunk by you guys. The vampires in the movies are so scary. Sviatoslav went on to explain that their family were all kind-hearted vampires. Big brother Jean is a doctor, big sister Anna is a police officer. Although they weren't born to Sviatoslav, they all have his blood running through their veins. Jean was a doctor during the Napoleonic era. Jean was accidentally killed by Sviatoslav at that time, and decided to slit his wrist to save people. So Jean became a vampire. To this day, he is still a doctor. Jean's superpower is diagnosing illnesses through blood analysis. Big sister Anna was a police officer during the Soviet era. She was killed in action while protecting Sviatoslav. Sviatoslav, grateful for her sacrifice, once again slit his wrist to save her, making Anna immortal too. Anna then spent hundreds of years as a police officer. Her superpower is mind reading. Zenyak listened, bewildered. Sviatoslav then warned him that they must adhere to two important treaties. The first rule is not to let anyone discover they are vampires. The second rule is not to harm humans, or the night watchman will come for you. Zenyak curiously asked who the night watchmen were. Sviatoslav said he would find out in due time. There was too much to digest at once. The main point was that they were now family. Zenyak perked up at this, borrowing 70,000 rubles from Sviatoslav to buy Masha a new phone as an apology gift. Masha was overjoyed and forgave him. Immediately afterward, Zenyak used the remaining money to buy a Christmas tree and a bunch of snacks that vampires can't eat. While Zenyak was in the bathroom, Jean's ex-wife Olga came over to join the Christmas celebration. Seeing a strange boy, Olga, without a word, bared her fangs and took a bite. It turned out Sviatoslav hadn't had time to tell her there was a newcomer in the house. Although Zenyak didn't seem too bright, it was clear Sviatoslav really liked him. The whole family rarely had such a joyful reunion. But unexpectedly, the doorbell suddenly rang. Zenyak had invited Masha, leaving Sviatoslav stunned. It was clear that Zenyak hadn't taken Sviatoslav's words seriously. The foolish boy liked to show off. He immediately bared his fangs in front of Masha, forcing John to put Masha into a coma. Sviatoslav warned Zenyak to follow the rules, or face family punishment. To make Zenyak completely leave Masha, Olga took Masha into a room and started brainwashing her with her superpowers. Before Masha could express her enthusiasm, Zenyak's fangs were already aimed at her neck. Realizing that he can no longer control his behavior, Zenyak turns his head and walks out of the room to reprimand Sviatoslav for turning him into a vampire. Sviatoslav patiently advised Zenyak to face reality. The real you died in that car accident. Although immortality isn't necessarily a good thing, you should cherish the second chance at life. Once you learn to control your hunger, you can go back to being happy with your girlfriend. After finally calming Zenyak down, the power suddenly went out. Zenyak suggested they all go into town to have some fun. Of course, Sviatoslav, being a 1,000-year-old vampire, had connections. He immediately contacted a wealthy friend in the city. When they arrived at the friend's mansion, Zenyak was stunned. The host then made a graceful entrance. He was also an ancient vampire. Zenyak was curious about how much the castle was worth. The man did the math for him, saying, "I worked 8 hours a day for 300 years, since everyone in the castle was already asleep." The mansion owner didn't invite them inside but generously gave Sviatoslav a jar of fresh juice. Before leaving, Sviatoslav secretly asked his friend to use his precognitive abilities to see if Zenyak had any future prospects. His friend said Zenyak's future was interesting, leaving Sviatoslav puzzled. Back home, Zenyak immediately started a live stream to make money, hoping to own a mansion one day. Sviatoslav was speechless, clearly seeing that Zenyak hadn't taken the treatise to heart. But Zenyak insisted that his viewers thought he was a fool and wouldn't believe he was a real vampire, seeing it as just a live stream gimmick. As a newcomer to the vampire family, Zenyak hadn't fully mastered his superpowers. One day Zenyak came across some bandits and he spent the whole night dealing with them, even drawing a liter of blood from them. Zenyak thought it wouldn't be fatal, but he didn't expect 2 of the robbers to freeze to death. Based on the evidence left at the scene, Anna quickly identified Zenyak as the suspect. Zenyak felt wronged. He had only drawn a liter of blood from them, and all 3 were alive when he left.
Трое.
Survivors were taken to the hospital. What worried everyone more was the night watchman. Centuries ago, the night watchman set a rule: any vampire who killed a human would be immediately executed. Irina suspected Zenyak was the killer, but Sviatoslav defended him, promising to find the real culprit. After serving as a police officer for hundreds of years, Anna also began working tirelessly with investigator Ivan to launch an investigation. However, as soon as they arrived at the hospital, they found that the survivor had already disappeared. John suspected that the killer was his ex-wife because he had always been puzzled about the source of her food. But Olga blamed John, saying that he had left heartlessly 100 years ago and now was back to trouble her. John kept pressing Olga, who had to explain helplessly that she was with her boyfriend the whole of last night. In the apartment, Zenyak was still busy using Sviatoslav's coffin as a live streaming prop, completely unaware of the seriousness of the situation. At this moment, Anna rushed in to tell Sviatoslav that there were important clues on investigator Ivan's computer. They quickly decided to copy the information. Anna intended to use mind reading to directly obtain the information, but unexpectedly, Ivan's mind was filled with dirty thoughts, and he kept holding Anna's small hand. This made Anna very embarrassed, and she had to find an opportunity to secretly touch Ivan. However, Ivan misunderstood and thought Anna was interested in him, eagerly wanting to take Anna back to his room for a drink. After being rejected by Anna, Ivan reluctantly prepared to leave. Only then did Anna realize that Sviatoslav was still in the room copying the information. Hearing Ivan's footsteps returning, Sviatoslav chose to jump out of the window directly, although it looked a bit embarrassing. Fortunately, Sviatoslav was immortal. A concerned citizen came forward to inquire. Ivan returned to the room and noticed something was wrong. He also traced Sviatoslav's home address through the computer usage records. Unexpectedly, he encountered thugs downstairs who openly harassed Anna. Ivan, in a fit of anger, fought for her, but he also got beaten up. Of course, female vampires are not to be trifled with, and Anna easily took down the strong man. Seeing Ivan covered in blood made Anna hungry, but she ultimately suppressed her appetite and took Ivan home. Sviatoslav blamed Anna for bringing an outsider in casually, but Anna felt they couldn't just stand by and do nothing, and Ivan was the first man in 80 years to stand up for her. Coincidentally, Irina arrived just then. Assuming the vampires were having dinner, the night watchman didn't care if they were saving lives or not. Her purpose was to capture Zenyak. The night watchman pressed them step by step, leading to the opening scene. Sviatoslav used both persuasion and force, reminding Irina that when she was seriously ill as a child, it was Sviatoslav who saved her, and that people should know how to be grateful. Sviatoslav also made an immediate pledge to find the murderer within 3 days. If it turned out to be a member of his family, he would personally execute them with his own hands. With these hands, the night watchman had no choice but to leave, but Sviatoslav's wing got stuck outside. The next day, Ivan woke up. Coincidentally, Olga came to find Sviatoslav. She didn't want to reveal information in front of the police. Seeing Sviatoslav nod in agreement, Olga provided an important clue. Sergei, who disappeared from the hospital yesterday, is my student. I know where he lives. Before leaving, Olga even sniffed Ivan out of curiosity, causing Sviatoslav to quickly send her away in a hurry.
Странная она какая-то. Это кто?
Бывшая жена дяди Жана.
Потому и бывшая.
Anna received the message and went to capture the suspect, but Ivan arrived at the garage first. Seeing the fangs in Ivan's mouth, Anna was stunned. It turned out that Ivan had made fake teeth based on the bite marks of the victim. Seeing the wound on Sergei's hand, Anna realized she couldn't take the deceased back to the police station. Otherwise, it would cause new trouble for the family. She had no choice but to bite Ivan. When Ivan woke up, he had forgotten everything, and the crime scene had been cleaned up. Anna sought Jean's help to hide the body, but Sviatoslav happened to see it. Anna explained that they couldn't let the night watchman find out, so they had to take this desperate measure. Sviatoslav reluctantly agreed. Sviatoslav turns to Olga and wants her to take a blood test to prove she's not the killer, but Olga refuses to cooperate. Sviatoslav says you can either get a blood test from Jean or I'll hand you over to the night watchman. Olga reluctantly went to the hospital but, upon meeting Jean, immediately asked him for a small favor. Even more awkward, Sviatoslav was hiding in the corner, watching. The test results showed that Olga was not the killer. However, when Sviatoslav returned home, he saw Zenyak using his beloved Emma scarf to sharpen a knife, prompting Sviatoslav to immediately reprimand him, because vampires have regenerative abilities. The wound healed quickly. Zenyak, the youngest vampire, was fascinated by everything, discovering his superpowers. He began experimenting vigorously. Zenyak thought he was going to die if he pushed too hard, but he didn't. He just lost a lot of blood and his body became hungry. Zenyak couldn't resist boarding a bus. He saw all those pale necks and couldn't help but lean in to sniff them. He was especially attracted to the freshly scabbed wounds, but remembering Sviatoslav's pact, he resisted his impulse. Although the necks were very tempting, fortunately, Sviatoslav had some extra food to help Zenyak satiate his hunger. Unexpectedly, the next day, Zenyak caused more trouble. Anna, who had long been annoyed with him, decided to discipline him while Ivan wasn't paying attention. Using his superpowers, Jean analyzed the body brought from the garage and determined it wasn't Sergei. The only thing certain was that victims appeared wherever Sergei was. And Ivan also found a new clue. A button left at the crime scene. Anna tells Sviatoslav about it, and while looking through the photo album, they realize that the button belongs on Olga's dress. At that moment, Olga was sweating profusely, eating hot pot. The group arrived at Olga's house, demanding an explanation. Olga explained that she had donated those antique clothes to a museum and some to a theater. Most importantly, the blood test results proved her innocence. While they were talking, Sergei walked out naked. Though he looked weak, like he had been drained, his recovery was beyond medical understanding compared to his previous severe injuries. Jean quickly drew some of Sergei's blood. As they were about to leave, Ivan tracked them down and took Sergei back to the police station as a suspect. From Sergei's testimony, they learned that a masked person had chased him that day. He didn't know how he ended up in the hospital. When he woke up, he found the masked person still outside the door, and he fled through the window in panic. Sergei was also puzzled about his rapid recovery. The body in the garage was actually Sergei's roommate. To properly handle the unfortunate corpse, Jean had to seek Olga's help. Olga's superpower was mind control.
Присмотритесь своими красивыми глазами. Это не труп. Это пациент Жанна Ивановича, и мы везем его домой, потому что его сегодня выписали. Понятно? Помогли бы лучше.
The hospital security guard was instantly brainwashed by Olga. Not only did he help carry the body, but he also offered sincere blessings. John was baffled about the cause of Sergei's recovery. He finally remembered that when he cut his palm on the glass shard, his blood had flowed into Sergei's wound. Additionally, he had extracted an unknown synthetic drug from Sergei's blood. Meanwhile, Svyatoslav and Zenyak unexpectedly discovered a wooden cabin filled with strange animal specimens and vampire photos on the walls. Anna received a call from Svyatoslav and hurried over. Even more surprisingly, there was a photo of Svyatoslav on the wall. Taking advantage of Ivan's distraction, Anna secretly took down the photo. They were puzzled about the identity of the house owner. While they were still wondering, a young man walked in, and outside in the car was his grandfather, who had difficulty moving. Nikita explained that studying vampires was his grandfather's hobby. When his grandfather was young, he saw a vampire, but everyone around him thought he was crazy and sent him to a mental hospital. Anna reported this situation to Svyatoslav. Svyatoslav found Irina and accused the night watchman of sending the old man to the mental hospital. But Irina changed the subject. She was willing to let bygones be bygones with Zenyak but hoped that Svyatoslav would turn her into a vampire. However, Svyatoslav immediately refused because if a night watchman became a vampire, it would lead to bias and injustice. Svyatoslav had learned this lesson once before. Hundreds of years ago, the night watchman's brother turned into a vampire and massacred an entire village. When Svyatoslav was about to execute him, the night watchman intervened, vehemently protecting his guilty brother. So, at this moment, Svyatoslav refused to allow the scales of justice to tilt again, but Irina said she could pass her position to her son. It turned out that Irina had cancer and wanted to gain immortality by becoming a vampire. Svyatoslav thought Irina was a good person, but he couldn't be sure she wouldn't turn evil after becoming a vampire. Svyatoslav went to Jean, hoping he could save Irina, but Jean said there was nothing he could do about cancer. However, Jean had just interrogated Sergei, learning that the drug in his body was an illegal substance bought on the black market. Meanwhile, Zenyak ran into trouble again. Ivan received a photo of a vampire. Zenyak explained that it was his costume for a live stream, even giving Ivan a Halloween ticket. But during the next live stream chat, they noticed a suspicious viewer named Dark Lord, whom Ivan suspected might be the mastermind. They decided to use Sergei as bait to lure the killer to the party. The group disguised themselves and waited according to the prearranged plan. On stage, Zenyak energetically introduced the guest, Sergei, saying he was the chosen one who survived a vampire attack unharmed. At the same time, Svyatoslav and Jean also arrived at the scene. They successfully bought the illegal drugs from the black market vendor, only to be caught by the police in the next moment. At the party, Sergei, watching Zenyak on stage, couldn't help but recall the night he was attacked, hallucinating that everyone around him was a vampire. Amid the chaos caused by the police raid, Sergei slipped away. When Zenyak caught up to Sergei, he found him already stabbed. Coincidentally, the police saw this scene too, and Zenyak couldn't explain the blood on his hands, so they were all taken to the police station. Svyatoslav reminded Jean not to do anything foolish as there were cameras everywhere. To get out early, Svyatoslav pretended to be sick. The officers were worried the old man would die in the station, and given his age, he didn't look like a drug addict, so they released both of them. But Zenyak wasn't so lucky. Mistaken for a murderer, he was taken to the hospital for a mandatory blood test. To prevent Zenyak's identity from being exposed, Olga used her superpower again to manipulate the nurse and successfully swapped Zenyak's blood sample. At this time, Ivan also discovered a new clue. Nikita wasn't a student at all but an intern doctor at the local hospital. He had been lying and was a major suspect. They prepared to bring Nikita back to the station. Sensing danger, Nikita immediately took off his badge and put on a mask, trying to slip away, but Anna smelled Nikita's scent and chased after him. Nikita, staying calm under pressure, pulled the fire alarm and successfully escaped. Focused on the chase, Anna didn't even notice her hand had been cut. To avoid revealing her vampire identity, she pretended to apply a band-aid. However, the evidence that made them more certain Nikita was the killer was the brass knuckles with fangs found in his car. Explaining the bite marks, they continued questioning Nikita's grandfather but suddenly received news that Nikita had been arrested. Overwhelmed with emotion, the old man had a heart attack. Meanwhile, John finally used the formula bought from the black market to develop a more potent special drug, but there were only 2 doses. Sergei was fortunate to receive the first injection. Then John called Svyatoslav, asking him to summon Irina. Irina was overjoyed upon receiving the news, but soon, Olga rushed in. Discovering that Sergei was in critical condition, Jean quickly informed Svyatoslav to temporarily cancel the arrangement with Irina. When Jean arrived at the ward, he realized the assistant had performed blood dialysis on Sergei, diluting the injected drug. Olga pressured Jean to save Sergei again, but there were only 2 doses of the special drug. Jean promised to find a way to save Sergei. Olga finally relented. Meanwhile, Svyatoslav found Irina. Before revealing the truth, Svyatoslav laid out a lot of groundwork. Irina, being smart, understood what Svyatoslav meant. Just as Svyatoslav was about to reveal the truth, Jean called at the right moment. However, when Svyatoslav passed by Nikita's grandfather's ward, he felt sorry for the old man, who had once been sent to a mental hospital because of them. So Svyatoslav changed his mind and decided to give the miracle drug to the old man. Nikita's grandfather was saved, but Irina cried, her hopes completely shattered. Elsewhere, believing his grandfather was dead, Nikita went completely mad and lured Ivan to the rooftop. By the time Anna arrived, Ivan was barely alive. Facing Anna's advice, Nikita, speaking like a vampire, said he wasn't afraid of death. Taking advantage of a colleague distracting Nikita, Anna swiftly saved them both. The colleague was completely stunned. Nikita was finally arrested, and Zenyak was released without charge. For the first time in 80 years, Anna showed true emotions, but her excitement caused her to revert to her vampire form. This nearly scared Ivan to death. Anna explained that they were good vampires, supervised by the night watchman, making her just an ordinary person. Ivan asked Anna how long she had been a vampire.
74 года.
In the interrogation room, Nikita continued to claim he was a vampire, influenced by Svyatoslav since childhood. He believed vampires existed. He had been drinking animal blood since he was 12 and tasted human blood for the first time during his hospital internship. That day, 2 people tried to rob him. In the struggle, Nikita grabbed a spiked plank, leaving bite marks and injuries. At this moment, Anna brought Irina to show her that Nikita wasn't a vampire. Unexpectedly, Nikita revealed another killer. The 2 of them had each killed 1 person, identifying the other as Zenyak. Irina insisted that Zenyak must be executed this time. Svyatoslav can't find a reason to protect Zenyak this time, so he takes him to the execution ground and decides to do it himself. At the critical moment, Zenyak broke free from his shackles and jumped out the window to escape. Irina accused Svyatoslav of deliberately letting Zenyak escape. Irina insisted that if Zenyak returned home, he must be captured, but Svyatoslav thought it was impossible since Zenyak now hated him and wouldn't come back. Meanwhile, Ivan discovered a new clue. Nikita had the same bite marks on his neck. Ivan went to Svyatoslav's house and asked if anyone had bitten Nikita, but everyone denied it. Ivan deduced that there must be another vampire, one who doesn't play by the rules. Nikita was likely just a smokescreen. Svyatoslav quickly brought out the roster for comparison, but among the many vampires, apart from his family, the rest had either been taken by the night watchman or left for breaking the pact. There was no matching record. Ivan had a clever idea. He threatened and lured Nikita, showing him the bite marks on his neck and claiming he was also serving the master. The master had promised to turn Ivan into a vampire. Nikita believed him and revealed the truth. It turned out that the 2 robbers weren't killed by Nikita but by a vampire named Klim. After feasting, Klim didn't harm Nikita but made him his subordinate, promising to turn him into a real vampire. What's even more unexpected is that Zenyak escaped from the torture chamber and suddenly met the vampire Klim. Klim even drank blood in front of Zenyak. Klim took Zenyak home, filled with resentment after escaping the execution ground. Zenyak hated Svyatoslav for helping outsiders execute him. Despite being innocent, this was exactly what Klim wanted. He began training Zenyak's superpowers. Zenyak started stalking Svyatoslav and was about to act when someone suddenly pulled him away. Klim told him not to be reckless. They needed to outsmart the police and night watchman. Meanwhile, Svyatoslav went to see Irina again. He told her that a bad vampire had appeared. Irina, thinking Svyatoslav was making excuses for Zenyak, ignored him, and Svyatoslav left helplessly. The next moment, Klim appeared in front of Irina, using the same trick he used on Nikita. He promised Irina the chance for immortality, but only if she captured Svyatoslav's entire family. It turned out that Klim and Svyatoslav were archenemies. 200 years ago, Klim's wife was executed by Svyatoslav for violating the night watchman's pact by killing someone. Klim harbored a grudge and waited for the right moment to challenge Svyatoslav. But since Svyatoslav was a millennium-old vampire, Klim was no match for him. Svyatoslav wanted to execute Klim immediately, but in a moment of mercy, he trapped Klim under a rock. leaving a future problem. 200 years later, two men were treasure hunting in the wild and accidentally dug up an ancient battle axe. They were stunned, thinking they had found treasure. On the way back, one of the men accidentally cut his finger. The long-slumbering Klim returned to the world. After a feast, Klim looked radiant and then embarked on a high point in life. Late that night, Zenyak sneaked into the house while the night watchman was not paying attention. Grandfather and grandson hugged each other warmly upon meeting. It turned out that Zenyak volunteered to be a mole to prove he wasn't a fool. As soon as he activated the tracker, they could capture Klim. To avoid the night watchman at the door, Jean brought a suitcase. Obviously, it was a bit difficult to fit a living person into it. Zenyak finally squeezed out, leaving the nearby janitor stunned. Not long after, the tracker alarm went off, and Irina led the group to surround Klim's place. When Klim realized that Zenyak had betrayed him, he angrily threw him to the ground. With his last ounce of strength, Zenyak tossed the tracker into Klim's pocket. Zenyak was then captured by the night watchman and executed publicly. They were outraged. Facing Irina's indifference, Svyatoslav was filled with regret. Adding to his frustration, Klim voluntarily sought out Svyatoslav. Svyatoslav regretted his past mercy, which had led to Zenyak's death. He couldn't resist wanting to kill Klim on the spot, but fearing innocent casualties in a street fight, he suppressed his anger and went to Irina again, but she still ignored him. Coincidentally, Ivan arrived with an arrest warrant, accusing Irina of murder. According to the law, Irina would face 15 years in prison, but she laughed, saying she might not live that long due to her late-stage cancer. Irina then found Klim and agreed to his terms, but without seeing him, Klim couldn't grant her immortality. Back home, Svyatoslav blamed Ivan, saying humans shouldn't know about vampires. He explained that the last person who knew was sent to a mental hospital and warned Ivan to run far away, as the night watchman would surely eliminate him. As expected, Ivan was ambushed by the night watchman as soon as he stepped out, but Olga happened to see and immediately came to his aid, killing the night watchman on the spot. Jean arrives and tries to give him first aid, but it's no use. Upon hearing the news, Svyatoslav shamelessly approached Irina again, to prevent Olga from being held accountable. Svyatoslav agreed to grant Irina immortality, only to be refused by her. Svyatoslav instantly felt bad, and he immediately went back to tell everyone to get out of the area. He discovered that the night watchman and Klim were working together, which would be disastrous as they were in positions of power. After sending his family away, Svyatoslav went alone to the tracked location and found Klim. In order to make Svyatoslav feel the pain, Klim had already deployed the capture in advance, and the Svyatoslav family was on the way to be captured. This completely enraged Svyatoslav, who transformed powerfully a second time, but to his surprise, Klim knocked him out in 1 second. The entire family was caged. To make Svyatoslav truly suffer, Klim decided to execute him last. Humans could not be compared to vampires. Klim's wife, no matter how many people she killed, should not have been executed. They were creatures given immortality in nature, and because of Svyatoslav's stupidity they are bound in the chains of the law. Unlike Klim, Svyatoslav had always wanted to be a normal person. This statement moved Irina. She decided to give up the illusion of immortality and turned against Klim. But clearly, these small fry were no match for Klim. Just as Klim was about to attack Irina's son, Caustic, Ivan arrived in time and started shooting, but it had no effect on Klim. Next, Klim planned to use a battle axe to kill them, but Irina unexpectedly shoved him off the building using enforced stand. Who said a blunt weapon couldn't kill? But Klim quickly regained his fighting ability. In the next moment, Sergei drove in and hit Klim straight on, but the vampire's strong regenerative ability allowed him to recover again. At the critical moment, Ivan shot the gas tank, causing an explosion that turned Klim into a fireball. Svyatoslav signaled Ivan to execute him. As they celebrated their victory, Caustic, using his new position as leader, demanded Olga be taken back for questioning because she had killed a human. Despite Olga being pregnant, Caustic mercilessly took her away. The family was furious. They had abided by the vampire pact out of humanity, but Svyatoslav realized that the pact had become twisted. From now on, there would be no pact and no peace. Kindness should have limits, as endless tolerance would only lead others to take advantage. 10-year-old Mila is actually a 100-year-old vampire with the superpower to sense death. When Mila sees black mist hovering over someone's head, it means they have only an hour left to live. In the park, Mila saw a man suffering from a terminal illness and decided to ease his pain by forcibly performing euthanasia. Just a day earlier, Anna found Mila in a dumpster. Anna tried to use mind reading to understand her, but as soon as she touched Mila, A horrifying scream echoed. Mila's mind was filled with terror, so Anna took the child home. Meanwhile, a seductive woman stopped a police car on the roadside, but the officers ignored her. Strangely, the woman appeared further ahead, threw away her red umbrella, grabbed a signpost, and hurled it. The police car swerved and plunged off the bridge. The woman calmly smiled, as her target was not the officers but the head of her accomplice in the trunk. Anna arrived at the accident scene to find that the deceased officer was her boyfriend. Anna holds back her grief and waits for her mobile phone to recharge before realizing that she missed his call. Using mind reading, Anna learned the details of the accident from the agent at the scene and quickly began investigating the headless body. The tattoo on the corpse's arm caught Anna's attention, and she took a blood sample from the body. Back home, Svyatoslav comforted Anna while helping her analyze the mysterious corpse. Jean tasted the sample Anna brought back and reached a shocking conclusion.
С уверенностью могу сказать, что это не человек.
Anna explained why she brought the little girl home. Mila must have seen something at the crime scene but remained silent. Svyatoslav had Jean check Mila's ears, but Jean said Mila's hearing was fine and her reactions were normal, likely due to extreme fright. Svyatoslav treated Mila like a granddaughter, perhaps because she reminded him of the deceased Zenyak. He wanted to buy Mila a new dress, but he was just a low-income old man. He asked how Mila's clothes got torn, hoping to get more information, but a mannequin's plastic head suddenly fell off, causing Mila to recoil instinctively. To Svyatoslav's surprise, Mila knew the old songs playing in the park and could even dance ballroom. Svyatoslav praised Mila's dancing, making her smile for the first time. Coincidentally, Kostik and his daughter Nastia were also in the park. He asked about the girl. Svyatoslav quickly gave Mila the name Rita, saying she was a neighbor's child. The two girls soon started playing together, but as they were about to leave, Kostik was puzzled and asked why the name was different from earlier. Svyatoslav quickly explained that Rita was the eldest daughter, and he got confused because of his old age. Anna then arrived at the park and read Mila's inner voice for the first time. Svyatoslav proudly claimed credit, saying he could open anyone's heart. Svyatoslav took Mila to a museum, but she stared at an old photo in a daze. Mila speaks for the first time.
Маму убили.
While Svyatoslav is confused, and the most important thing is that the photo is from World War II. Svyatoslav quickly contacted Anna and Jean, saying they had important matters to discuss at home. When they returned, they found Svyatoslav and Mila leisurely playing cards. Amazingly, Mila's card skills surpassed Svyatoslav's. Unwilling to accept defeat, Svyatoslav used a hay fork to pin Mila to the cupboard, insisting that no one could beat him at cards. The family couldn't understand Svyatoslav's strange behavior. The next moment, Mila broke through the window and fled. Only Svyatoslav had recognized Mila's true identity. Anna was curious how Svyatoslav discovered the truth. After all, Svyatoslav was a millennium-old vampire. During the day, he saw Mila using an old phonograph with skill, and in the park, Mila hummed songs from 50 years ago. The key was that Mila knew how to use the old phonograph but didn't know how to play with toys typical for her age. Moreover, Svyatoslav had used a hay fork to test and fully prove that Mila was not human. The next day, Jean accidentally found Mila at a construction site, with a man's body lying on the ground. In the next moment, Jean caught Mila, but she was particularly cunning.
Помогите, я его не знаю, он меня куда-то тащит!
A few young people blocked Jean's way, making him very angry. As a result, he was hit with a bottle. Mila escaped smoothly but soon ran into Svyatoslav. Svyatoslav showed her an old photo of a mother and daughter, which made Mila panic. In the next moment, Svyatoslav brought Mila back home, leaving Jean and Anna puzzled. Mila explained that after escaping through the window, she encountered a troublemaking boy on the street and punched him into a children's clothing store. She also admitted to hanging the terminally ill man in the park from the tree. However, the most puzzling thing was the male corpse at the construction site. Was Mila the killer? Mila had followed the man to the construction site, and the next moment, he suddenly fell from the roof. But Jean seemed skeptical of Mila's story. However, when Anna received the surveillance footage, they realized Mila was not lying. Years ago, Mila lived in a vampire community. They coexisted peacefully with humans and even founded a farm enterprise with 11 shareholders, creating many jobs. But as the business grew, so did the conflicts. The vampires wanted more blood and power, and the workers became mere sacrifices. The farm increasingly resembled a prison. Subsequently, they sent hunters to chase Mila. Mila fled alone for a year and was eventually taken in by a kind family at an orphanage, enjoying a peaceful and happy life for a while. But the good times didn't last. As the hunters soon found Mila, she resumed her wandering and fleeing. One day, Mila stumbled upon a village. The elderly woman approached and asked Mila whose child she was. But Mila turned and saw the black mist over the woman's head. The kind elderly woman took Mila in, and Mila was very touched. But suddenly, Mila fought desperately against the hunter but was thrown hundreds of meters away. Enraged, Mila went into berserk mode and instantly beheaded her enemy. Then I hid in the dumpster until Anna found me. The tattoo on the hunter's arm was the mark of a young vampire. The farm was established by 12 vampires. Each of us could activate those we wanted to. The arrow on the tattoo pointing to 7 indicated that they were all converted by the high-ranking Boris. Anna asked Mila if she had seen her boyfriend at the time. Mila said she had. He and the police took away the head. Anna sank into sadness again. Jean took Mila to the hospital to test her ability to foresee death again. Jean was dismissive, saying this was a regular ward with no life-threatening situations. But Mila pointed to the workers outside the window. Suddenly, one of the ropes snapped. Svyatoslav kindly went over to warn the worker about the danger. Jean urged the worker to come inside, but Mila said it was useless. Sure enough, the worker still died. Svyatoslav remarked that such a superpower was actually a psychological burden for a child. Mila couldn't help but think of her mother. During World War II, when the Germans massacred their village, Mila's mother had pushed her into a pit, saving her life. Although Mila was 100 years old, she could still play with girls her apparent age.
Ничего удивительного. Бабки такого возраста любят проводить время.
Meanwhile, Mila's foster mother, Marina, came to the police station looking for her, accompanied by Agata, who was posing as a community volunteer. Agata was also a vampire converted by Boris and the top assassin among the hunters. Agata's superpower was making people feel pain. The sheriff took Marina to find Mila, unaware that the female volunteer was a vampire. At that moment, Mila sensed something unusual. Anna received a call from the sheriff, who told her that Mila's foster mother was on her way. Mila suggested confirming with a video call. After hanging up, the sheriff noticed someone following them and immediately asked a colleague to check the suspicious vehicle. Agata secretly instructed her accomplices to leave. Unexpectedly, the sheriff noticed the tattoo on Agata's arm. He immediately coordinated with Anna to change the meeting place to the police station. At the station, Mila recognized Agata in the room. Anna suggested that Mila meet Marina alone while she confronted the hunter, but Mila quickly warned Anna that the hunter was very high level and she was no match. Despite Mila's warning, Anna confidently wanted to see how strong this woman was. Anna got straight to the point, mentioning that witnesses saw her at the accident scene. Agata calmly took off her glasses, instantly revealing her fangs. Anna was indeed not skilled enough and was in grave danger. Luckily, the police outside noticed something was wrong and saved Anna's life. Agata then broke through the window and escaped. Agata was punished by Boris for failing the mission. Agata promised she would capture Mila. Boris, recognizing Agata's value to the family, restored her vision and enhanced her combat abilities. Meanwhile, Anna was furiously replenishing herself. Svyatoslav was curious as Anna hadn't drunk blood like this in 80 years. Mila explained that Agata nearly killed Anna, and now they knew her hiding place, so they could come to capture her at any time. As expected, Boris soon arrived at Svyatoslav's house with his men to take Mila, but Svyatoslav, who now considered Mila family, refused, leading to a breakdown in talks. Although no conflict occurred this time, Svyatoslav realized that a war between the two factions was inevitable. Sure enough, a major battle was imminent. Svyatoslav was ambushed, and Jean encountered a new nurse. Svyatoslav decided to start a counterattack. He planned a trap to lure Boris into the woods, then use his levitation ability to capture Boris in a net and burn them all to ashes with gasoline. But Jean thought the plan was too idealistic. Sure enough, the trap was detected by Boris in 1 second. Not only did the plan fail, but the sheriff also lost his life. Seeing the severity of the situation, Svyatoslav was forced to use the long-lost bloodbath technique. Zenyak miraculously came back to life, emerging from the blood-filled bathtub, trembling and covered in blood, to stand before his family. Svyatoslav was thrilled that Zenyak had been successfully revived. Jean was even more astonished, calling it a medical miracle. However, Zenyak's intelligence had declined, and he seemed almost mentally impaired. Anna was curious how Svyatoslav had accomplished this. Svyatoslav explained that he had retrieved Zenyak's skull and watered it with fresh blood daily until muscles grew on the skull. Then he brought back a headless corpse from the morgue and placed it with Zenyak's skull into the bloodbath. Svyatoslav took out an ancient manuscript from 1,000 years ago and placed it into the tub, causing an immediate chemical reaction. The family was curious about where Svyatoslav had learned such sorcery. Svyatoslav shared the story of his previous life. 1,000 years ago, he was just an ordinary man, the eldest in his tribe. Every year, to ward off droughts, the tribe had a tradition of sacrificing the eldest. That year Svyatoslav was tied to a totem. In the dead of night, a creature with a chicken's head and snake's body suddenly appeared and bit Svyatoslav. He was in great pain, but then a lightning bolt struck the creature. The creature died, but Svyatoslav gained immortality and became a top-tier vampire. Svyatoslav became the tribe's guardian, fending off invaders single-handedly, from the era of cold weapons to the age of gunpowder. However, he once encountered a mighty warrior who decapitated him. They used the warrior's plasma to revive Svyatoslav, so Svyatoslav thought of reviving Zenyak in a bloodbath. While everyone was immersed in the joy of Zenyak's resurrection, Svyatoslav's phone suddenly rang. It was Boris who called, and he challenged Svyatoslav again. Boris warned Svyatoslav to hand over Mila or there would be a massacre. At this moment, Mila was still hiding in Kostik's prison. Boris demanded that Mila reach the sightseeing boat within an hour, or all the civilians on board would be killed. Mila decided to go save them, but Svyatoslav urged her not to act rashly. He said that with all the men in the family, they couldn't let a child charge into battle. She should stay put and wait for his good news. Kostik was moved by this scene and asked Svyatoslav if there was anything he could do to help. Although it was a vampire gang conflict, it involved a human crisis. As someone in power, Kostik felt obligated to intervene and stop it. Svyatoslav said he would handle it first. Asking for help would be embarrassing for a top-tier vampire. They should just provide backup. Svyatoslav was already accustomed to this bureaucratic rhetoric. Back home, Svyatoslav began planning the rescue operation, determined to leave no room for error this time. But then, an unexpected turn of events occurred. Kostik discovered that his daughter was also on the sightseeing boat, prompting him to rush to the prison in a panic. Meanwhile, Mila sensed something strange as black mist appeared above her head. Could it be that her life was also in danger? Sure enough, in the next moment, Kostik stunned Mila with a taser. At the same time, Svyatoslav set up an elaborate trap to rescue the civilians on the boat, but Kostik arrived in a hurry, urging him to cancel the plan immediately. Svyatoslav pretended to comply with the order while subtly signaling Anna through a secret code that Kostik was taking Mila directly to the trade. Anna and Jean quickly intercepted Kostik, attacking him without hesitation. They also lift the car and the driver nods his head. Meanwhile, Svyatoslav stood on the bridge, feeling helpless until the intellectually impaired Zenyak appeared. Svyatoslav devised a plan, pretending to play a game with Zenyak, telling him to swim to the boat and push the driver into the river. As Zenyak prepared to dive, he unexpectedly encountered Masha, but he no longer remembered her. Seeing Masha distracting Zenyak, Svyatoslav, worried about delays, threw a shoe to solve the problem. With the issue resolved, Zenyak continued his mission. Zenyak swam to the boat and swiftly climbed aboard. Upon seeing Boris, he immediately dragged him into the water. Boris tried to use his powers to blind Zenyak, but after his resurrection, Zenyak's strength had surged. Not only did he regain his vision, but he also acquired powerful telekinetic abilities, making him a formidable opponent. Unexpectedly, Zenyak was distracted by a small fish, giving Boris a chance to catch his breath. Boris quickly surfaced, but Zenyak, still playful, pulled him back down, spinning Boris left and right. Zenyak had a great time. When he had enough, Zenyak hurled Boris towards the propeller. Seeing the blood at the stern and Zenyak's head popping up, Svyatoslav breathed a sigh of relief. On the other side, Anna faced a formidable enemy. Agata's combat skills were clearly superior to Anna's. Agata dragged Anna with one hand and effortlessly threw her aside. Last time, you were lucky. This time, not so much. Agata sneered, preparing to finish Anna off. Unexpectedly, her accomplice turned against her, grabbing Agata, but even he was no match for her. They're easily lifted by Agata. In the next moment, Mila charged at Agata in a fit of rage, but to everyone's surprise, Mila electrocuted herself. Just as Agata was feeling triumphant, Anna grabbed a road sign and hurled it at Agata, slicing her in half. In the end, the family finally defeated the vampire gang and went on to live a happy and beautiful life.
По вкусу лебеда.